It's Rich, and I am here with none other than the mayor of Valuetown, Trump. Okay, Trump, so we had a little bit of time to play around with all the Hearthstone cards now. Which card stood out to you?
Well, right now, I actually just looked at all the cards, and I'd say my top three involve, perhaps not in this order, but Arcane Giant, Spirit Claws, and let's see, third neutral one. What was its name? The Curator. Spirit Claws has kind of created a new shaman archetype, which seems even stronger. Spirit Claws is so powerful that it's kind of edging out the card that a lot of people thought was really strong in shaman, Tunnel Trug. I mean, everyone knows that Fiery War Axe is a great card. Spirit Claws is potentially a Fiery War Axe that costs one less and has one more attack, or one more durability. So, Spirit Claws is a big deal.
Corset, still there. How do you feel about the inclusion of Corset for all eternity?
I was one of the people at the meeting that Blizzard did with top players or streamers or just general community when they pitched the idea of a standard set. And I believe I was the one who first spoke up about, well, I don't really like the idea of the core set being forever in there. Kibler kind of backed me up on this as well, and or advanced his own direction. I still believe that what we kind of came up to was that it would be accompanied by a lot of card changes, and there were a lot of card changes to the core set, all of which nerfed cards that were played. Well, there were some that were nerfed also for the sake of making sure they weren't overpowered in the future. I actually proposed something, or the direction I wanted, which is that I would hope that the core set would not have more than 10 cards total in a 30-card deck, which is, for example, 5 unique cards and then 2 of each, or just 10 in total, maybe like a few legends and some one-ofs. But I don't think the core set should ever overpower or be the majority of an expansion, and they certainly of a standard, and they certainly did a lot to Druid in order to fix that. They nerfed Ancient of Lore, they changed Force of Nature, and they changed one more card, escapes me at the moment, but Druid was definitely one of the decks with the most number of core set cards, and they took that direction strongly. And I was told that they would continue to look into that. And like the first year of standard, they just wanted to make a few changes. Maybe the following standard rotation, they'll make a few more changes.
What do you think about the state of Yogg-Saron in competitive Hearthstone right now?
I'm torn on Yogg-Saron. Because on the one hand, I actually just did a metagame analysis, and I think there are 7 prominent decks right now that have come out as clear tier 1 decks after Karazhan, and that may change. But out of those 7, only 2 decks run Yogg-Saron. And what I like about Yogg-Saron is that it is a fun card, and that it is a catch-up mechanism, which is to say that when you're behind and you play a card, you get further ahead, as opposed it's a card that allows you to come back into the game, and I like that about Yogg-Saron. Yes, it's really random, yet at the same time it is stacked in your favor, and you can generally play it and expect great things to happen. It is a 10 mana card, and there's actually counterplay to it. You just kill them in time, or even if you're really far behind and then you play Yogg-Saron, you don't usually come out into a winning position. Like, that happens sometimes, not always. I'm surprisingly okay with Yogg-Saron, and I actually think that the real problem might lie elsewhere.
2 main things that are happening, and also 2 things that we could potentially see when a more permanent fix is rolled out. It's removal of cards and balancing of weights that cards can actually be picked up in Arena. So first we'll take a peek at actually removing the cards. What do you think of that, as even for cards that are specific, like Cthulhu. That was the first one that kind of did it. Then obviously Purify comes into play. Those are the first two cards that they're like, okay, we're going to remove them from Arena. Cthulhu because you can't draw the synergies necessarily, and then Purify because they're like, okay, this is just it almost into the bad vein. That's like this card might be bad, even though it's a good card in the right scenario. Do you think that that's ever the direction to go, just removing the card from Arena?
Yeah, I mean, with the Cthulhu cards in particular, that was probably the right direction to go because it doesn't make sense to play Cthulhu cards without Cthulhu. Even though the vanilla minions are actually pretty good, the basic minions for those. Um, Once they get card weights in place, there's actually no reason to completely remove a card such as Purify. You can simply give it a low weight if Priest is not doing well. In a way, they are already manipulating weights in that rares are very less likely to come up than commons. Instead of that being the case, they're going to simply manipulate each card's weights. And by doing so, they're going to be able to make it so that the more powerful classes' powerful cards will show up less often, and the more powerful cards of less powerful classes will show up more often in Arena. And that's going to create an even playing field where all the classes are theoretically on the same level, and that is good. And that's probably the way to do it.
Trump, what did you think of the new season system that was implemented?
The season system is a step in the right direction. It allowed, in the year 2015, players sometimes, including myself, got through phases because of their popularity. So I was invited to some bigger tournaments which awarded points, and I actually placed into a America qualifier because I happened to win a big tournament in which I was seeded into a later round than the open qualifiers. So I feel like it's in the right direction to open it more up to the public, where you have to have open tournaments. However, one of its downfalls is that it awarded too many points, opinion me, for these obscure tournaments, these very small tournaments. And so it really incentivizes play in these small tournaments, which is not bad, but it just ends up being that you grind all these small tournaments that don't actually matter and that the public doesn't know about. I feel like a greater emphasis should be placed on ladder performance. So that's what I would hope for 2017's BlizzCon format. Currently, one of the players, RDU, has stated a lot about the last call qualifier. So the way that the system currently works, in a really quick nutshell, is that every 1/4 of the year, one player from 4 regions makes it through. So a total of 4 players every 1/4 of a year. And then the last 4 players comes from this last call qualifier, where the top 8 points earner through the entire year get to participate in the tournament. And being the top 8 points earner, even though what I just said earlier about open tournaments and small tournaments granting points being a bit weak, I'd say, these players are all very, very good, and you still can earn a lot of points from ladder play. So I feel like in the future, when top points earners from ladder play are make up these players, that should really prove to people their skill, and therefore they should be featured more often. One of the complaints that RDU made was that they're it's not being broadcast as featured as these other 3 tournaments that happened throughout the year, these preliminaries. And it's true, this is actually perhaps the most glorious of all the qualifiers. It's the top 8 players. It should be shown, and everyone would want to watch, because these are the 8 players that have gained a lot of points. And if the system is correct, people will know how they got their points.
Trump, so if anyone hasn't seen any of your content before, where can they actually go check it out, and what can they expect to see?
I post the best stuff from my Twitch over at twitch.tv/TrumpSC over on YouTube. So on YouTube, you'll be able to see me play specific decks, and I also have a series for those of you who want to learn how to play Hearthstone or learn how to improve in Hearthstone. called Trump Basic Teachings and Trump Deck Teachings, where I talk through basic mechanics in Trump Basic Teachings, and I talk through how to play specific decks in Trump Deck Teachings. So you can find that on youtube.com/TrumpSC.
Trump, thank you so much for your time today.
It's been my pleasure.